Imagine sitting in a room for 12 years, 18 if you count university, listening to the supposed experts of the world prepare you for life. You sit in rows, you follow instructions, you memorize facts, and you are promised a specific transaction. If you comply, if you are disciplined, and if you achieve the credentials, you will be granted security and prosperity. You upheld your end of the bargain. You showed up, you worked hard, you took the loans, and yet, sitting here today, perhaps decades into that promised career, you feel a distinct gnawing sensation that the transaction was fraudulent. Today, we are going to dissect the single most guarded secret within the financial system, a secret that explains why high-income earners are often just as broke as low-income earners. In the next few minutes, you are going to face truths that you never imagined, realities that might actually hurt to hear because they challenge the very foundation of your identity as a hard worker. But I ask you to stay with me because by the time we are finished, I am going to dismantle your entire perception of education and money. Most importantly, I'm going to show you the exit. At the end of this conversation, I will hand you the strategy for taking this new financial education and using it to face down the very system that tried to domesticate you. This is not an accident. The feeling that you are running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up is not a glitch in the system, nor is it a result of you not working hard enough. It is the result of a curriculum designed by necessity, not for your liberation, but for your utility. To understand why you were never taught the mechanics of wealth, we have to look through a lens that most people find uncomfortable. We have to look through the lens of power dynamics, the kind of cold, strategic realism that governed history's courts and kingdoms. If you study the architecture of modern education, you find it was built during an industrial age that desperately needed one thing: reliable, competent, obedient workers. It did not need philosophers, and it certainly did not need competitors. A factory, a corporation, or a government bureaucracy relies on a stable hierarchy. If you teach every soldier how to be a general, the army collapses. If you teach every worker how to own the means of production, the factory stops running. Therefore, the curriculum was designed to be silent on the one subject that could disrupt the hierarchy: the strategic accumulation and deployment of capital. They taught you how to count money, but they never taught you how to command it. There is a profound difference. Being financially literate in the academic sense means knowing how to balance a checkbook, how to save for a rainy day, and perhaps how to avoid ruinous credit card debt. That is survival. That is the literacy of a safe, productive employee who will not become a burden on the state. But the literacy of wealth, the understanding of leverage, tax structures, asset allocation, and the manipulation of debt, that is the literacy of the sovereign. And sovereigns do not train their subjects to take the throne. Consider the concept of the safe path. From the moment you entered kindergarten, you were conditioned to believe that risk is the enemy and that safety is found in dependency. A paycheck is safe. A guaranteed pension is safe. A degree is safe. But in the landscape of high finance, this safety is actually the position of maximum vulnerability because it relies entirely on external validation. You are only paid as long as you are useful to someone else's system. The moment the system changes or the owner decides you are obsolete, your safety evaporates. The education system trained you to be a high-performance component in a machine built by someone else. You were taught to specialize, become the best accountant, the best engineer, the best lawyer. Specialization makes you valuable, yes, but it also makes you dependent. You fit into a specific slot. The architects of wealth, however, are rarely specialists. They are generalists who understand how to organize specialists. They don't do the work. They own the outcome of the work. This is where the silence becomes deafening. Why didn't your economics teacher explain that trading time for money is a mathematical dead end? You have a finite amount of time. You can only work so many hours. If your income is tied to your physical presence and your labor, your wealth has a ceiling. It is capped by the clock. Real wealth is created when income is decoupled from effort. It is created through systems, businesses, investments, intellectual property that operate while you sleep. But to teach you this in the 4th grade would be to undermine the work ethic that the industrial world relies upon. Instead, you were taught to value the credential over the asset. You were told that the letters after your name were the key to the kingdom. So you bought them. You went into debt to buy a degree that qualified you to ask for a job to pay off the debt. It is a perfect closed loop. The debt keeps you frightened. The fear keeps you working. The work keeps the system running. It is a brilliant mechanism of control, one that does not require force, only belief. As long as you believe the credential is the asset, you will never look for the real assets. There is a philosophy of power, often whispered but rarely spoken, that suggests the ruling class maintains its position not by oppressing the masses, but by distracting them. If you keep a population busy seeking validation, chasing promotions, and worrying about monthly payments, they will never have the mental bandwidth to question the structure of the game. They will argue over the rules of the game, taxes, wages, benefits, but they will never question the nature of the game itself. The wealthy understand that money is not a store of value. It is a tool of influence. It is liquid power. But in school, money is presented as a scarce resource that must be hoarded. You are taught a scarcity mindset. Save your pennies. Don't spend it all in one place. This defensive posture ensures you remain a consumer or a saver, both of which serve the banks and the corporations. The offensive posture, using money to acquire leverage, using debt to acquire assets, using capital to buy time, is seen as dangerous. And for the uneducated, it is dangerous. But it is only dangerous because the instruction manual was withheld. Think about the psychological conditioning around mistakes. In school, what happens when you make a mistake? You get a red mark. You get a lower grade. You are shamed. You are taught that failure is a sign of incompetence. In the world of wealth creation, however, failure is data. It is the feedback loop required for innovation. The entrepreneur expects to fail, learns from it, adjusts the system, and tries again. But because you were conditioned to fear the red mark, you fear the risk required to break free. You stay in the job you hate because the fear of failing at a business you haven't started yet is paralyzed by a 20-year-old memory of a report card. The system also hides the reality of taxes. You are taught that taxes are a duty, a slice of your income taken before you ever see it. You are not taught that the tax code is essentially a series of incentives for business owners and investors. The government wants housing, so it gives tax breaks to real estate investors. The government wants jobs, so it gives tax breaks to business founders. If you are an employee, you are taxed on the first dollar you make. If you are an owner, you are taxed on the last dollar you have left after spending everything you needed to grow. This fundamental difference in arithmetic is the difference between a life of struggle and a life of abundance. But again, this is not in the textbook. The reason you feel frustrated, the reason you feel that slight edge of anger when you look at your life, is because you played a game that was rigged against you by the very people who taught you the rules. You are attempting to win a game of chess while moving your pieces like checkers. It doesn't matter how hard you think or how disciplined you are. If the mechanics are wrong, the outcome will always be limited. This realization shouldn't depress you. It should liberate you. It means that your lack of financial freedom is not a character defect. It is an education deficit. And unlike the schooling of your youth, this education is not found in an institution. It is found in observation, in strategy, and in a shift of identity. You must move your identity from that of the worker to that of the architect. The worker asks, "How can I get paid more for my time?" The architect asks, "How can I own a system that pays me?" The worker seeks job security. The architect seeks control. The worker fears debt. The architect uses debt. The worker is proud of their effort. The architect is interested only in the result. This is the Machiavellian truth of modern finance. Power protects itself by obscuring the path to power. The gates are not locked, but they are hidden behind a fog of cultural expectations. You are expected to buy the house, buy the car, take the vacation, and retire at 65. That is the script. Deviating from the script requires a level of psychological fortitude that schools actively suppress. It requires you to be willing to be misunderstood. It requires you to be willing to look foolish to your peers who are still mesmerized by the illusion of the steady paycheck. The secrets of money are not complex formulas. They are not hidden in high-frequency trading algorithms. They are simple, brutal truths about ownership and leverage.